Just try one. Hi, Weekend Wonders. This weekend we headed off to High Falls State Park in between the towns of Jackson and Forsyth, Georgia. This was a fairly old state park. In the early 1800s, the High Falls area was a prosperous industrial town with several stores, a grist mill, cotton gin, blacksmith shop, shoe factory, hotel. High Falls became a ghost town in the 1880s when the major railroad bypassed it. I think the railroad ended up going to Jackson instead of High Falls. And today, park visitors can enjoy the scenic waterfall on the Tawaliga River. I think it's pronounced Tawaliga. There's a grist mill still there. The powerhouse is still there. They're in ruins. You'll see that in some of the pictures that you are probably popping up right now. We were at campsite number 4 in the river campground. There's also yurts, picnic areas, swimming pool, miniature golf, canoe, a lot of stuff that are also available at other state parks in Georgia. It's in the middle of Georgia and it's very close to I-75. So we went down there. We had never been to this state park before, and we decided for a change in scenery. You can see here this little culvert that I'm starting to walk down. I think this was an overflow for the power plant back in the 1860s, 1870s. It travels all the way back up to the ruins, so it was very interesting. And I'm sure now it works as flood control. I would imagine it would work as some type of flood control. And this is downriver from the actual High Falls. So when you're coming into High Falls, if you're coming in from the east, you'll cross over a bridge and you'll see the dam on the right. That's not actually High Falls, that's just the dam. It looks like a waterfall when the rains are heavy, but the falls are actually to your left. It's one of the largest waterfalls in the state of Georgia. It's very massive and wide. It's not extremely high, but it's definitely the highest in middle Georgia. So this is the Tawaliga River here, and you can see a little path that goes up, follows the river. Looking back at the campsites, you can see very large campsites, and they're angled. So it was nice because you didn't wake up and look out your window into someone else's camper. You actually looked out into a wood scene, which was cool. Coming back down through that culvert again, that floodplain. I would definitely stay at Five Falls again. We'll do a campground review on it. We're in campsite 4. I think the best campsites were probably 1 through 8. Once you got past 8 and higher on the river campground, it started to get a little bit more cramped, but still overall I thought a nice campground. We would definitely go to High Falls again. You can see a nice patio area there. Fire ring was fairly old, but it worked. All in all, we had a really good time at High Falls. We would definitely go back again. So we arrived at the campground around 5:30 on Friday evening, and just enough time to set up shop and get out. And our first stop was at Buckner's Family Restaurant. It has a Jackson, Georgia address, and Buckner's was opened in 1980, and most of their recipes are just family recipes. Cooked to taste like they did at home. Buckner's has grown tremendously over the last 37 years, I guess it is. And supposedly each day they wake up and make everything from scratch. They serve everything, and you can see on that Lazy Susan family style, and it's an all-you-can-eat place. So apparently Buckner serves around 100 tons of chicken breasts per year. So that's crazy. I thought Buckner's was good. They were good at everything, but they weren't great at any one thing. So everything was good, but nothing was great, and certainly nothing was bad. But the food service was very quick. As soon as we sat down, obviously there's no menu. You just eat whatever they're serving that day. And so it's already cooked, and they bring it right out to you immediately. We were lucky enough to have our own table. I think a lot of times you can sit with as many as 8 people. So we really enjoyed Buckner's. Saturday morning, we left out of High Falls State Park and traveled over to Dauset Trails Nature Center, which is still in Jackson, Georgia. It was only like an 8-minute ride, if that far. But Dauset Trails is a private, non-profit nature center located near Jackson. The Nature Center is open year-round except for certain holidays. And the mission of the is to provide a quality environmental education, outdoor recreation, and understanding of early farm life through close and intimate contact with Georgia's preserved flora and fauna. So they had most of what they had there was native species to Georgia. I think the one thing we missed that where there was under renovation was the bear exhibit. I think the bears were out of town, but otherwise it was cool. They have the other things they have there are they have 17 miles of mountain bike trails, hiking trails, 10 miles of horse trails. They have a garden trail, and then the animal exhibits over a dozen animals from bobcats to they had a cougar there, bald eagle. You think you see that in the pictures, and then they also had farm animals with goats, pigs, cows, donkeys, chickens, all of that fun stuff. And finally, the Wonder Room. It's actually in the bottom of the visitor center up top, and they had native reptiles to Georgia. So that was cool. It's also home to General Beauregard Lee. He is the southern version of the groundhog. So on Groundhog Day, which was actually just a few weeks ago, us folks in Georgia, we actually pay attention to what Mr. Lee says as far as whether we're going to get some early summer or late winter. After we worked up a good appetite at Dauset Trails, we continued a little further north on Highway 42 is Fresh Air BBQ and Brunswick Stew. And this one's a little nostalgic for me because growing up, my grandparents had a lake house on Jackson Lake, and we used to go eat at Fresh Air BBQ 30 some odd years ago. This place has not changed a bit. It opened in 1929, and it's the oldest barbecue restaurant in Georgia, still in its original location. So back in the day, it was called the Barbecue Place, as it became known, and it was a little more than a drive-through, basically, where people would drive through, get their food, and then eat on picnics out on the sawdust floors outside. And they do things just like almost exactly as they did nearly almost 100 years ago. So we're getting close. We're certainly in on 90 years. So I'm sure they've had to do a couple of things as far as regulations are concerned. But if you want to see something that's as close as you can get to what a restaurant would look like back in the late 20s, early 30s, Fresh Air BBQ would be it. Basically, the rest of the trip, we enjoyed hiking and playing on the playgrounds. The kids loved the playgrounds. We had a really great time. Enjoy.
Smart Sound. Smart Sound. Smart Sound. Smart Sound.
If you enjoyed today's video, please give us a like or better yet, a subscribe.